Are you suffering from constant sneezing, sniffling, watery eyes, itchy throat, the list goes on? You may want to keep your tissues and eye drops handy for just a little while longer.
Yeah, because joining us this morning with everything we need to know about the seasonal allergy surge and how to cope is Dr. Jessica Shepard. Dr. Shepard, welcome to the show.
Buenos dias.
How are you?
We're dying.
We're a little scratchy and runny and watery, but other than that, we're fine.
Well, don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, not on your watch. Okay,
No.
How can you tell the difference between allergies and a cold?
Absolutely. I think that people have allergies when there are some changes in weather, but allergies usually persist over a long period of time versus a cold, which is a little bit more shorter in duration. You can last anywhere from 5 days to maybe a week. But the common allergy symptom that people seem to have that can be seen over, kids, adults, old people, is that itchy in the eyes, the nose, and the throat. And also the drainage that you might have in allergies versus a cold. So with allergies, you'll typically see that it's maybe a little bit clear. It's not always there. Whereas a cold, you have much more of color, your yellows and your greens. And then also that with that comes things like a fever or some other typical things with a cold that you would not see in an allergy. Now, I will say that allergies tend to affect more of the sinuses in the sense that it may give someone a headache, but the body overall doesn't necessarily have additional symptoms, which you would see in a cold, such as your muscle aches and your tenderness and your soreness, your fatigue. That usually is a little bit more exacerbated in a cold rather than allergies.
So, spring comes, flowers are in bloom. Everybody says this is why I have allergies, is pollen in the air. What causes fall allergies, though?
Well, you still have some of those same changes, and it may not necessarily be because you don't see the flowers blooming, but you do have a shift in temperature. And also what you do have is a shift in how, again, the pollination is affected overall. So you have ragweed pollen, which is quite common as well. And what you'll typically see is, as much as a trigger, is that change in the temperature, but also when you have those changes in the outdoor settings, the leaves start to fall, the grass starts to change, you still do have a release of those allergens, which is going to set off in immune system some of those triggers. So your immunoglobulins and some of those mast cells, and those are going to be activated, giving you that reaction, which you'll see with what you're feeling right now as we're getting into the fall season.
We both just looked at the screen we put up and said mold. Mold is the culprit.
I think it's mold.
Yeah,
I
think
problems.
so too.
You think it's mold? That's what we reduced it to, is you think yours is mold.
In our professional
very
opinion,
moldy.
yes.
I'll take that diagnosis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is it possible for pets to get allergies? Some of us have dogs and they're sneezing and we're like, bro, you okay? What's going on?
Now, actually, pets can get allergies. Now, they're very different from what humans actually experience, but dogs and cats will often experience skin allergies, such as a dermatitis when they get some of the irritation on their skin. It can be caused by foods, fleas can cause allergies, environmental exposure. You do have some pets that have irritation to the grass that they're in, and typically you try to keep them out of certain grasses. But if your pet is experiencing fall allergies, again, they can have the inflamed skin, some of the eye irritation as well. And a lot of people will say that they do notice that their pets do have allergies when they're exposed to some of the allergens, but it's very highly treatable and preventable. So that means talking to your vet about how you can get your best need for your pet and how you can meet that as well. Could be medication, it could be keeping them away from those allergens.
Now, are there any home remedies that we can go to maybe ease this a little bit?
Please?
Yeah, home remedies are always a great part of what we can do in addition to medication. So that always is going to be knowing what your specific allergen is and decreasing the exposure that you have to that specific pet dander, that plant, that type of grass. And also doing things that are humidifiers are great. Humidifiers really have a way of keeping the sinuses open and not getting them inflamed. And then you can also find that in some of the foods that you eat might have allergens that cause you to be a little bit more reactive. And then also doing things like exercise. Now, even though some people have what we call exercise-induced reactive airway disease and allergies, there are some people too that respond in a good way to exercise. So knowing what does best for your body and staying tuned to that with holistic and alternative forms.
I have bad news for you and me. We both love wine.
Yeah.
And apparently wine is not great.
It's not great for this.
Have allergies.
Oh, I'm fine. I don't have any allergies at all.
Maybe we can just find a wine that doesn't have the allergen.
We're on it. We're on it. Before we go, Dr. Shepard, When is this going to be
Yeah.
over? When can we stop sneezing?
That is a great question. Everyone responds differently to allergens. Typically, you'll find as the weather gets a little bit more consistent with the temperatures dropping below a certain level, you'll start to have more of a relief from the allergens because you're going to have, again, more of now your climate that is colder and is keeping those changes in the environment more stable than what you're seeing now.
Great information.
Fantastic information. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time.
Dr. Shepard, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It ends when we have to shovel snow, apparently.
Apparently, yes.
And-
We're going to post all of these tips on our website at pix11.com.